Can you hear me? Sound? Great. Amazing. Not sure what that was about, but here we are. Happy Monday. Hello. We're gonna make some dumplings for Grandma. I'm gonna eat some dinner. We can chat. Not chat. I don't know what's happening with everything in my life. Except now I have to take 2 weeks of 4 different kinds of medications for my stomach. So things are getting serial. But we're gonna make dumplings for Grandma. Yeah, today is Monday, isn't it? Today is Monday. Don't fuck with me. Hi, Trinidad. Hello, new person. Welcome. I'm gonna pop out chat. I'm going to increase text size for my granny eyes. And now we are ready to make dumplings, which you have seen so many times before. Guys, look at this watermelon. This watermelon like ruined my life about 2 days ago. Basically what happened was one of Mom's friends and coworkers visited Grandma, and Grandma kept calling me that day and refused to take no for an answer. She was like, if you don't come take this watermelon right now, it's gonna spoil. I'm like, Grandma, it's a freaking whole watermelon. I don't have space for this in my fridge. So I took it home the next day, only to put it on the floor again. Grandma was freaking out. Apparently she was crying all night. She was crying all day. When I went to visit her that morning, after she had called me 6 or 7 times to get me to try to pick up the watermelon, despite the fact that I was in farm school in the Bronx and then hanging out with Aaron and friends in Chinatown and not available to come pick out a watermelon, that was perfectly fine. She was screaming when I went in the next morning, help, somebody save my life, as if she were dying, because we did not accept the fact that she needed to have her watermelon picked up ASAP. So I have not been posting Grandma on my Instagram because I'm fucking annoyed. And I'm like really fucking tired of her shit. And I am trying to keep my sanity all about, and it's difficult. So I am stressed. Grandma is stressing me out big time. And I was trying to eat dinner at Aaron's and hang out with my friends Nez and Mark, and these calls kept coming through, and I picked up 2 of them, and they heard me like trying to scream through the phone to try to tell Grandma that I can't come, I'm not coming, and the watermelon's gonna be fine, and she's gonna have to wait until the next day for me to come pick it up. And then after I got off the phone, everything was so awkward, because it's so fucking awkward to hear you screaming at someone's like grandma. And Aaron was like, well, at least you love her, you care for her. And I'm like, I care for her, yes. Love her? I don't know. I hate her sometimes. And even 2 days later, I still stand by those words. I hate her sometimes. So there it is. That's the truth. And I understand where she's coming from. I understand her frame of mind. I understand she feels insecure. But just because I understand where she's coming from does not mean that I have the resources to deal with her demands constantly. So there it is. I don't know if I love Grandma. I don't know if I'm capable of loving Grandma. I care for her though, because she is my charge and responsibility now. But love is a big word. I don't know if I'm ready to apply that to how I feel about Grandma. So those are my thoughts. How's everyone else's weekend? I think it was also particularly stressful because I came home that day after Grandma started calling me nonstop to pick up the watermelon, only to find that my memory card was corrupted. So I lost footage of a vlog that I had done, of dim sum and Flushing, and I lost all the footage that I had promised I would deliver to farm school people because they were asking me and another student to film some B-roll for them for the outdoor classes we were attending so that they could use it in future educational and promotional videos. And I came home and the memory card wouldn't open, basically. All the files were like trapped. And then somehow I ended up blanking out on the card and it got formatted. And Erin took some time yesterday to try to recover the files, and we did manage to recover some files, but they are all corrupted files. So that means that if I had taken a 40-second clip of something, that clip might be 1 or 2 seconds now. It might not have audio. Some clips are like Frankenstein bits of 2 or 3 other video clips. So essentially a lot of the footage has been rendered useless, even though we managed to recover it. But my weekend has been very up and down. But I'm trying to stay, I know I'm ranting right now, but I think ranting is a healthy part of processing things. I'm trying to stay in the mindset of, that sucked, but it could have been worse, and it wasn't, and I'm learning to deal with it, and I'm trying to just not hold on to the bitterness of self-blame and annoyance and anger. So yeah. So that's been my life. And yes, it sucks to have lost all that footage, and I'm going to try to see if I can still make a small edit of it, but you know, sometimes shit happens, and all you can do is learn how to absorb the unexpected shocks and move on. Because if I don't move on, then I get stuck in my own misery, which I have done and continue to do to some degree, but I would like to move on from that mode of operation. It's just not, it's not something that I want to continue doing. I mean, Deborah, I wouldn't say that. I think everyone's situation is a little bit different. I think having grandparents and having to take care of an aging grandparent on your own are very different things. And depending on the grandparent and their age and their health conditions, all of those variables contribute to different kinds of circumstances and frustrations that might pop up, right? I'm not saying having grandparents is a bad thing. I'm just saying that visiting grandma every day and putting up with her expectations and trying to keep my own peace and live my own life while she makes all these demands of me because of her own insecurities and fear of death and fear of abandonment and feeling of loneliness is really hard to navigate. Sometimes it becomes very overwhelming for me. That's all I'm saying. So I think a lot of people don't want to talk about how difficult aging is and taking care of aging parents and grandparents can be, and it's tabooed because we want to be nice people who are caring to people who have cared for us in our lives, but shit is hard. Like this type of shit is fucking hard sometimes, and I think we need to talk about it, and we need to not feel guilty about feeling like we're not saints all the time, because we're not. We're not capable of being saints all the time. I think certainly Mom tried to be a saint all the time, and she ended up like running herself into a corner and burning out. So, you know, in a lot of ways, I'm just trying to be honest about all these things that I think a lot of people experience but are afraid to speak out loud because it makes them feel like they're not a good person. You don't have to be a good person all the time in order to be a good person. You can be a bad person even if you are a good person. Because everything in moderation. If you're good to other people all the time, you're probably bad to yourself sometimes. You might be bad to yourself in very crucial moments, and that's also not sustainable. So that's at least the reality I've chosen to tell myself. Whether or not it is applicable universally, I will not say. But this is the mindset that works for me. And my uncle in Beijing keeps saying, oh, this shouldn't be your responsibility. Is it possible to get grandma back to China? And I'm like, I guess it's possible. But you know what? The whole process of filing paperwork and plane tickets and visas and arrangements will also be extremely tiring for me. And then to have what result? To have grandma go back to China is to have her go into an environment with a shit ton of air pollution. It will trigger all of her lung conditions and make life very difficult for her on a biological basis because she's going to be coughing a lot more than she is here. She's going to drive my uncle and aunt nuts, which they have been through before, because he's probably going to take her home and try to take care of her from home and not put her in any sort of long-term care facility. The conditions of facility is also very different in China. Right now, I think we have it pretty good at this facility where everyone seems to be very patient and forgiving and understanding. And I have a good rapport going with everyone who works there because they know I've been coming almost every day for the past year and a half. If I get grandma back to China, like, is it actually going to produce any positive results? Yeah, grandma's going to feel like she's back home, but my God, the impact that grandma has on other people is not to be underestimated. Right now, I cannot just think about what grandma wants, even though that might seem like the most humane thing. Right now, I have to think about what the smart thing is to do. Because grandma, for someone like grandma, I don't think any fulfillment of wish and desire will ever be enough for her. Even when she makes it back to China, she'll have some sort of other complaint pop up. It's kind of like how when people get plastic surgery, they fix one perceived weakness or, imperfection, and then their self-view changes and shifts to find yet more problems, to then want more procedures done, to create the even more perfect self. And I think for everyone, and for grandma especially, our desires are insatiable sometimes. So she's 95. She can barely go to the bathroom without huffing and puffing. Just thinking about putting her on a 17-hour flight, if we can find a direct one, and then trying to go through all of those hoops is insane. Not just for her, but for me too. Like, mentally, it is challenging and stressful to think about how to navigate that kind of bureaucracy and that kind of health condition. And to think that we're going to be up in the air for almost a day with other people on the plane. Like, I don't want to potentially cause a plane delay for 200 to 300 people in the air. Even if I take her to a Chinese-speaking facility, she is going to have issues, right? And then I'm going to have to build up new relationships anew. And I'm not going to be able to visit her every day. That was the trade-off that I offered her from the very beginning of taking care of her when she was in the hospital for sepsis right after mom died. And I said to her, we're going to have to put you in a long-term care facility. You can either go to a place in Flushing where they would have more Chinese-speaking nurses and staff and patients, or you can stay somewhere where they don't have Chinese staff but is closer to me. And she picked closer to me so that I could visit her every day. I'm holding up my end of the bargain right now. So, you know, I don't want to fuck with it because I've basically set up my entire life as it is right now to facilitate being close to grandma and putting up my end of the bargain. So I wish it were easier on all of us, honestly. All of us who are doing this caretaking work. It's really rough, guys. I just want everyone to know that it's rough and that it's okay to struggle with feelings of strong dislike and or hate, even for loved ones who you're supposed to feel fondly towards always. These emotions are natural. I want to normalize them. I want to tell you that you're not an evil person for thinking bad thoughts. Because I think I've had to struggle a lot with myself, guilt tripping myself regarding how inadequate I was in feeling this level of like love and acceptance for my grandma all the time. And I realized a while in that it's just an impossible situation to truly be a good person all the time when you are taking care of a literal human being with very different desires and needs and understandings of the world. She's 95. She has a lot of psychological trauma in her background, a lot of physical turbulence in her background. There is no way she can understand the world the way I understand the world. And that difference also contributes to our misunderstandings and our arguments. And she doesn't really understand that I am limited in how much I can do for her. She tends to think that it's really easy for me to just like cook a new thing for her. I don't think she's aware of the fact that I spend all this time making food for her. And then, you know, sometimes when you already spend so much effort doing something for someone and they can't seem to understand how much is involved in making that happen, it feels very defeating sometimes and deflating. And I feel like how my mom felt, I think. I'm sure it's nowhere near as bad as mom felt because at least I don't have to live with grandma 24/7. But my God, this is hard. And so I've talked with Uncle, and he was like, you really have to keep in mind that grandma's 95, and in the grand scheme of things, you need to value yourself more than you value grandma because she's already lived a very long, full life, and you have so much more to go than she does. Relatively speaking, although, you know, technically mom still had way more to go than grandma did, but mom didn't make it, right? So I'm trying to not repeat my mom's choices. I was gonna say missteps, but I don't think we can realize what missteps are until we are in retrospective mode. Also, I'm just gonna take this chance to say that American sirens are fucking annoying. They are the worst sirens I've ever heard. In other countries, they are not this annoying. You do not have to be this loud. Like, Japan's ambulances and police cars are so cute. They have this like little wee-woo two-toned alarm, and it is not disturbing in the least. I'm unfortunately not doing God's work. I'm just doing my granddaughter work, especially as a daughter who didn't take care of her mom when she could. So this is atonement for me, and I am submitted to it. And I think when Mom first died, I was like, oh yeah, no problem. Eventually Grandma will move back to China and she'll be out of my hands. But I think in the past year and a half, I've kind of decided and basically 95% resigned to the fact that I'm going to be taking care of Grandma until she dies. Just because I've decided that it's probably the best case scenario for everyone involved. And I feel like I can have more detachment from feeling responsibility to acquiesce to Grandma's requests all the time, given that I'm her granddaughter and not her son. I think if she were to go back to China, my uncle would probably let her step all over him again, because he's her son and he feels that filial piety and duty and responsibility to always honor whatever she says. But it drives people nuts. Like, Grandma has hallucinations, basically. She doesn't really know what reality is anymore and what's possible. I'll walk into her room sometimes and she'll be writing on a piece of paper in very large font in her like little scribbly scrobbly Chinese characters, "Somebody come save me." And then I'm like, who are you writing that to, Grandma? And she's like, the people in the TV. She's like, the president of China. And I'm like, bro, they're in the TV, but they're not actually in the TV. Like, nobody sees you in the TV. So Grandma, you know, is delusional according to our reality interpretations. She's in her own reality. And I had a long talk with her on Sunday while I was wheeling her to the farmer's market about how we live in different realities, and there's no way that we can really come together and have our realities combine into one. She's going to keep living in her reality, and I'm going to keep living in my reality, and that's that. So I had to make her understand that she can have her own reality, but I'm not buying into it, because it's not. Anyway, the jar is a protein shake. I have to get something in my system before I can take my 4 meds, so. And you know what? I used to think that taking care of Grandma isn't an ideal scenario, but maybe in the long term it'll alleviate some of my guilt of feeling like I didn't take care of Mom enough. Maybe this is truly just an opportunity for me to atone. And, you know, I can feel a little bit better about maybe Grandma not ruining other people's lives, because, like, I don't think she intends on ruining other people's lives, but being with Grandma long term ruins people's lives because she is just really difficult to deal with. No fault of her own, it's just the situation. Hi, Florida. I'm eating my shake in a leftover peanut butter jar. Yeah, she has no responsibilities and no ambitions apart from returning to China. Her life is basically over. You're not being mean. It is true. Every day she does the same shit, which is much of nothing at all. I just feel like it's really serving as a great reminder for me to keep the larger picture in mind regarding life. You know, like, we always want to think we want to live forever. Do we actually want to live forever? I don't know if I do. I certainly know I definitely don't want to live till 95. What is forever anyway, you know? This is the filling that we made last time. Please don't ask me what's in it. It's the same filling that we make every time. It's pork based. I'm gonna bring you closer. She is a baby again, absolutely. Your mom is right. Your mom is right. Yes, I want to say that I feel like I'm becoming a more patient person. But certainly after screaming at my grandma, makes me feel like I haven't made much progress at all. Where is my container? Oh, one is in there. Where's the other one? Here we go. Hi, Brooklyn. Am I perfecting dumplings? I don't know if I've perfected it, but I'm growing more attuned as to what to expect, which is not perfection, which I've always known to not expect, but I think with every time making dumplings like this, I'm like, oh yeah, it's not going to be perfect, and it'll be fine. She will eat it. She's going to be happy to have it. She might complain about it in some respects, but at the end of the day, she has it. So this is kind of the way that I've been treating life these days is, can you get it done? Great. Did you not get it done today? Maybe tomorrow. If you don't get it done ever, maybe it's not important. Is it more patience or is it more resignation? Or are they the same? I'm not really sure. I don't really care. I am grateful for the ways in which I have changed to meet my own needs in life, I think. It's taken a while. I think I'm still working at it, but I do appreciate the changes I've noticed in myself since Mom died. I do feel like a little more level in my head most days, not all days. I don't think anybody's capable of having all day leveling heads, but Rebecca, it's funny that you say the key to longevity is being miserable, because Grandma loves to complain about shit. She never stops complaining about stuff or bringing up the past traumas. And I remember this having been a big issue with Mom, because Mom is not a person who likes to be reminded of unhappy things, and Grandma would always turn the conversation whenever we were eating about how lucky I am to not have to worry about food, and how when she was a kid she would have to scrounge weeds and everything just to make sure she wasn't starving to death. But you know, I understand that she had those traumas, but I think it was more so the fact that like she literally brought it up every week without fail. And I'm sure she did it too when I wasn't present, so I can see how that drove my mom nuts. I certainly would have been driven nuts too. Yeah, maybe my mom did think it was the best case scenario, but my mom also had much less firm boundaries than I did. And I think learning boundaries has been really important to me, and I think learning boundaries has come in various modes in the past year for me. One is boundaries at work, not letting work get to me the way that I used to let it affect me. Boundaries on social media. Ever since that person sent me that suicidal DM in January and like completely broke me for a couple of days, I decided to set up firmer boundaries on social media and to not respond to certain requests at all. And it's really helped. Another boundary was set by a very, very, I don't even want to say traumatic, but just a very hurtful and disappointing interaction that I had as a result of Hinge. I think that also helped me set boundaries a lot. And finally, setting boundaries with Grandma has been a very invaluable learning experience, I think. Um, so I think slowly I'm learning how to have healthier definitions for myself regarding what I'm capable of giving people and what I'm not capable of giving people. Um, so, what they say is true. All the trials and tribulations aid your growth. Yeah, sometimes maybe they don't have to be this harsh of a trial and a tribulation, but beggars can't be choosers, and we are all sort of just beggars in life at the end of the day, aren't we? The thing to keep in mind is life doesn't ever end. Until you die. So you are always going to be met with less than ideal scenarios and hurdles. So every chance you get when something bad happens to you is basically a test run of how resilient you can be. Life sucks, y'all. Life is exhausting, okay? So think about how you want to run this show in terms of not wearing yourself out too soon. I don't think Mom thought about that hard enough, and she really did just disappear very suddenly. And I think a lot of this has to do with the way that we were encouraged as kids and praised as kids. I see Grandma now, my cousin, so my mom's brother, my uncle, who lives in Beijing, who's my grandmother's remaining child. He has a daughter, my cousin, who now has a daughter of her own. So Grandma now has a great-grandchild. And every time Uncle shows her this kid over Skype, Grandma always defaults to incessantly praising this child's beauty. Now, don't get me wrong, this child is gorgeous. She's beautiful. She's tall, she's strong, she's got huge eyes and a beautiful smile, and really she is beautiful. But I keep trying to remind Grandma, which of course doesn't get through to her, but I try to tell it to my uncle. I'm like, stop praising this child for her beauty. Because I think what happened to my mom was, as a kid, she got praised for being considerate, for being independent, for being capable, for being beautiful. And guess what she chose to do as she grew up into an adult? I don't know, but I think she kept chasing the approval of others through accomplishing all of those things that she was praised for as a kid. So she tried to maintain her kindness, her servitude to others, her capability and responsibility and giving nature, and obviously started criticizing herself a lot for her aging qualities. She grew very conscious of her upper arm being too thick and all of that. And so when we grow and when we change, it conflicts with the messaging that we were given when we were children about what was worthy in us, what was of value in us in the eyes of other people. And when we grow up valuing other people's opinions of us too much, and we rely on other people's praise as a form of sustaining the self and the self-image, that's a very dangerous game to play. And so every time Grandma is like, oh, this child is so beautiful, I'm like, Grandma, can you say something else about her? Like, I don't want her to get this idea that, like, that's all she's good for. That's all you're praising her for, is her beauty. But yeah, Grandma can't, but I talk about this with my uncle, and my uncle's like, yeah, your mom actually told me very shortly after this kid was born that we should be careful about praising the child for certain aspects, of her characteristic traits. And I was like, I agree with mom. And maybe mom realized too the detrimental effects of being positively reinforced in certain ways that became unsustainable for her, as she grew into a person who should have formulated more solid boundaries for herself and more solid sense of self-esteem and confidence, exclusive of other people's approval for her. So just a reminder that even if you see some great aspect in a person, to like diversify your praise for them, because I don't know, I think it's really easy for us to want to chase love and acceptance through other people, and when people consistently praise you for one thing only, it's really hard to detach yourself from that one singular value that you hold. So just be careful. This is also why I don't like it when other people are like, oh my gosh, June, you look so fit. How do you stay so skinny? What is your secret? It's just like, the way that that kind of compliment is phrased is so double-edged. And also, I just don't like being reinforced in that way of like, wow, you're so whatever physically, and that's a good thing. Because one day, this physicality will change, and then I will start feeling bad that I'm no longer the thing that you praised me for. And then what? And then I feel like shit. And I would really like to not feel like shit. So it's not on other people to do what I need them to do always, but I think it's still a good idea to make what you prefer known to other people, especially people that care about you, so that they understand what you're comfortable with, and that you understand what you're comfortable with, and that you can tell them what you would like to see from them, especially if they are people who actually love you. I don't need any compliments. I actually do much better without compliments, because I think in part due to my Chinese upbringing, we are told to be humble, and I think being praised actually sets off a guilt complex in me, where I have to like defend myself, so to speak, against praise, and try to like shrug it off and disown the praise, which adds a lot of mental taxation on me that I would just like to not have to deal with. So actually, don't praise me. And I think that's healthy too, because I really don't need further inflation of my ego. Thank you. I like being acceptable. Yeah, and not all of the blame is obviously placed on parents. There's other social factors and relationships that kids grow up around, immersed in. I think at school my mom was praised for certain things too, and at home differently, by neighbors, by friends, by relatives. They're all different praises, sources of praise. And how do we develop a sense of self outside of what other people tell us we are? How do we grow to appreciate ourselves without needing that external confirmation? How do we disregard the importance of other people's viewpoints about us when we need to disengage for our own sanity and health? Because remember, everyone's reality is their own reality, and it might not be compatible with yours, just like how grandma's reality is not compatible with mine. So at a certain point, you're going to have to probably choose between conflicting realities. And it's going to be really hard when you have realities that don't line up, coming from someone that you love and want to develop bonds and relationships with, but that's where communication comes into place, and hopefully the person that you love and care for and want to develop a relationship with is not a 95-year-old woman who's been really fucked up by life's bad luck, and who can actually understand where you're coming from and be willing to work with you on developing a common reality together. But that ship has sailed for my grandma, obviously. Is there a fine line between being encouraged by compliments and trying to please people to reap compliments? Yes, I think so. Intention does matter. In my reality, intention does matter. Why somebody does something matters to me. I don't know. I think I've been fantasizing about communes because they just seem so foreign and idyllic, but who knows how communes are actually run, right? They're still filled with people, and we all know how I feel about people. I don't like them. What is Jantalagan? I don't know that concept. I mean, I think sooner or later we all have to turn towards other forms of living arrangements, right? Like, what we have now is just truly not sustainable, both environmentally and financially speaking. We're gonna have to reimagine society bigly soon. Well, Georgia, as long as you understand you and you feel like you did right by you, I think that's really all that matters. Other people just won't understand sometimes, and it's unfortunate to feel like there is no solidarity and confirmation of your choice, and your preference, but you're the one living with you, so do what makes you feel happy and report to yourself first and always. I'm glad you made the choice that you felt more comfortable with. Yeah, Chinese people actually do that kind of backhanded compliments a lot. They'll like compliment one person while simultaneously tearing down another. That kind of backhanded compliment is like extremely unpleasant to have as a system of communication and kind of societal reward, because it breeds this baseline of competition, and it makes you always feel like you have to beat down others in order to be successful and valid and valued, and I freaking hate that so much. There are a lot of things that I really don't like about Chinese culture, and I honestly think that a lot of Chinese people also don't like it, but they've kind of just accepted it, and that's what they've known their whole lives. As a person who's had to kind of navigate two different cultures growing up, I think I have the ability and the luxury of being able to be like, okay, that part of that culture doesn't really vibe with me. KP, are you talking from a Chinese perspective? Yeah, you're not really supposed to outrightly accept a compliment in Chinese culture. You always have to deflect it and be like, what are you talking about? There's no way I'm this thing. It's stupid. It's like so fake. There are so many aspects of Chinese culture that just seem fake to me. Very ingenuine. I mean, I don't have thoughts on being a twin because I'm not one, but I can imagine how toxic that can be. Literally a person who looks almost exactly like you, and obviously that's going to raise people's propensity for comparing you. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I'm just glad that I'm not a mom and that I don't have to deal with all of that complicated psychology of how to not fuck up a kid, which a lot of people are doing very well on. Almost inevitable, really. Yeah, I'm sure it's not just Chinese culture, but you know, from my background, I only know Chinese culture, so I can only speak on my experience of Chinese culture. But I'm sure many other cultures do various things like that too, where it's like this kind of fake humility. I just don't know, man. I don't know what the point of fake humility is. It seems so much worse. Humility is supposed to be like a genuine disowning of ego, and to have fake humility is just like such a rotten cherry on top of the whole thing. I only know how to dump these days. All of my time is spent on crafting dumplings for grandma. I mostly just eat leftovers and whatever I have to test for the newsletters. Do I have self-care rituals? I try to calm myself down and tell myself that nothing is as serious as I am imagining it to be. I want to disengage from the gravity that I've been assigning to my reality sometimes by acknowledging that alternate realities do exist, not in a sci-fi way, but just in a how much do you give credence and weight to this event that happened. And I don't know, just kind of letting myself be okay with whatever happens. I think I've really not had a desire to chase after anything my whole life, but especially after mom died, I've really just given up on any sort of goal setting. And I've taken a very observational stance on life in terms of just seeing where things go and letting them be. So that's where I'm at mentally right now. I don't know how long this is gonna last. Currently, I can almost honestly say because I don't really ever know myself, because I don't know anyone, but I can almost honestly say that I would not mind staying this way for the rest of my life. I think it brings a very peaceful existence to my routines, and enables me to look at what I previously might have considered to be boring in a new light, and it makes me feel more grateful, I guess. Is that the right word? I'm not sure if that's quite the right word, but sounds nice for now. I've never read Life of Pi, so I don't think I've watched the movie either. You have a question about dumplings. When they're fresh, how long can I store in the fridge? You should always freeze dumplings after assembly, before cooking. After cooking, I really would not recommend you storing them for longer than 1 or 2 days. Dumplings smell really horrible after a couple of days. I just wouldn't even want to eat leftover dumplings, honestly. It's one of the worst leftover foods ever, in my opinion. The dough gets really soggy after they've been boiled, and it's just like not ideal. How do you freeze dumplings that have flour? Just freeze them. Freeze them in a single layer, and then you can transfer them to consolidate. Flour doesn't impact the freeze. Flour just prevents sticking. So, on the one hand, I'm a little bit disappointed and feeling lost that I haven't done more with this channel the way I had imagined I would after being fired. But on the other hand, I'm perfectly content, I think, just kind of coasting right now and living. Because I think when I wanted to do something with this channel, I was still in that kind of like starvation mode of thinking where if I don't have a job right now, I'll be ruined. Which is, I think, how a lot of people in society think about life and jobs these days. It's just like they constantly have to find a job, and I totally understand having to pay bills and get a job to pay bills, but like I think even people who don't have an immediate need for money really freak out when they are jobless, and they just feel like they're so embarrassed that they don't have a full-time job, and it's like a societal pariah identity, which I'm fully embracing, honestly. I don't mind being a social pariah, because when you realize how awful some of the rules you have to uphold as a member of society is, you kind of don't value it as much anymore. I have tried to watch BoJack. A lot of people have recommended it to me, but I was not able to finish the episode. It did not strike me as my animation or humor, but people have encouraged me to try it again, so maybe one day I will. I'm going to take a little snack break before rolling out the second batch of dough. Yeah, I also wonder, is it that the show gets dark, or is it that it gets too real, right? Because reality isn't really happy all the time. I actually just watched Thelma yesterday. Has anyone seen Thelma? It's like a psychological, slightly supernatural thriller of sorts, drama. I'm gonna eat my vitamins first, and then once I have more food in my system, we're gonna start on the 4 medications. One of which is Pepto-Bismol. The joys of medication. Oh, and another delusional reality complaint of Grandma's about why she was freaking out to justify why she kept calling me was she said that the male nurse, who had been one of the most solid people I've ever seen and met and so patient, gives Grandma an alternative lunch whenever she throws a fit about how it's leftovers.
She complained that he didn't give her her meds, refused to like do a checkup on her, which like she doesn't get a checkup unless she's sick. Like it's not a daily thing. And that he posted a paper sign on her door that says do not give her meds, which is so easily proven wrong by the mere fact that one, grandma does not read English, so even if they posted a sign on her door, which I did not see by the way, she would not have understood what they wrote on the paper because nobody in that facility speaks Chinese, and nobody would post a sign in Chinese because nobody who works there speaks Chinese. They would have posted it in English, which is a language that she doesn't know how to speak or say or read. So grandma's delusion, the more she says delusional things that I can very easily prove wrong, the less likely I am to believe all her other complaints. And I tell this to her, I'm like, Grandma, like if you keep saying all these things that I know to not be true, I cannot trust you anymore. Guys, if you have any advice on how to deal with a 95-year-old who has all these delusions about how everyone is out to get her and how nobody cares about her and how she will just throw manipulative sentences and thoughts like, well, if none of you actually care about me anymore, then I'm just ready to die, which she said to me multiple times as I was reprimanding her for not calling me constantly to pick up a freaking watermelon because I have my own life to live. Don't cry wolf, Grandma. Yeah, that's all she does. That's all she does. I think you're right. I think she does want to go back to China. But I've also stated to her as early as last year that I don't think we're going to ever make it back to China. And I thought for a very long time that she had accepted that, and I had tried to convince her of the fact that the air is better here, the care is better here, and it's just impossible to get her in her health condition on a 17-hour direct flight if there's even any to begin with. And then once we land in China, there's going to be issues of what kinds of retirement homes are possible for her, of how we're going to manage home care. If I don't want my uncle to do home care, I just know it's going to end up in a lot of brokenness. Even if my uncle doesn't have a mental breakdown, it will ruin the dynamics between him and my aunt. I just know that it's going to cause so much family drama, and that this is the best case scenario. So I really can't let Grandma get her way, as cruel as that may sound, just simply because I'm at a point where I know, given her behavior and her patterns of acting out, that once she makes it back to China, she's just gonna keep doing the same thing. Maybe if we get her back to China, she'll finally feel at peace to die, I guess. But I'm not certain that I can take that gamble. She seems so sturdy. Every day she has enough energy to yell at the staff, to throw fits, to scream all night because I didn't come to pick up the watermelon. Knowing that she has this much life force and energy in her, I just can't see her dying anytime soon. So again, I can move her to a Chinatown nursing home. It's gonna take work, but I'm also not gonna see her every day. There's no fucking way I'm commuting an hour or more every day to go see her, on top of prepping food for her, on top of Skyping Uncle in. It's just gonna fuck up my life too much. It's gonna burn me out. So if I move her into a facility that isn't a more Chinese speaking staffed place, I'm not gonna see her every day. I'm gonna see her once a week tops. So that's gonna cause her to act out too. There is, I think, one thing that I have come to understand, and that I'm trying to get Grandma to understand, but you know, Grandma's not gonna understand, is that there is no appeasing her. She will always want more. And once you do not meet her demands, her increasing demands, she will find a way to complain and act out about it. And I think at a certain point, I'm just gonna have to deal with practicing on my own anger management and practicing on non-reactivity so that I can witness her breakdowns without breaking down myself with her. So, yeah, and there's a lot of financial stuff that would have to be figured out if we move her back to China. You know, there's going to be a lot of costs involved for uncle in terms of long-term care. I already have a system worked out here. It's working. I just don't want to fuck with it, you know? Like, yes, I'm getting very stressed. Yes, I'm getting baby ulcers in my stomach and esophagus, but I think this is also just coming with age and all the other things that happened in my life. And, you know, so I'm gonna work hard on ignoring grandma with compassion. I'm not ignoring her to neglect her. I'm not ignoring her to abandon her. I'm ignoring her so that I can make taking care of her sustainable for myself. This is a strategic ignoring of requests that simply cannot be fulfilled and cannot be satiated. I don't know what Gaviscon is. And at this point, it's not even like a money issue. It's the fact that after we do all this work to get her back into China, things might actually worsen. And I just really don't want to see that happen. Like I said, things can always be worse. And yes, my doctor did tell me to change my diet. He says less spicy, less vinegary and acidic, less citrus, less caffeine. That wipes out so much flavor. Aaron was like, you're gonna be on so many antibiotics and they're all so super strong. You're gonna need some probiotics. Like make sure you're upping your yogurt and kimchi and fermented intake. And I'm like, kimchi is both spicy and acidic. I can't have it. You know what I'm worried about is transferring grandma somewhere where they're going to be less tolerant of her frankly abusive behavior. Again, I don't mean to make grandma sound like a villain, but she does some things that are just absolutely difficult to tolerate. Like imagine having someone scream all night, not because she's physically in trouble, but because she thinks I'm in trouble because I simply did not want to come to pick up a watermelon from her at like 9 or 10 at night. I can't do anything for a brain of hers that takes things to the worst case scenario when I don't show up. She constantly thinks that when I don't pick up the phone or when I don't show up when she wants me to, that I'm sick, that I got in an accident, that I died. She'll cry about it until I show up. That's not something I can do. This is also behavior that I witnessed in my mom. I honestly think that it might be a strain of mental illness of some sort that runs genetically through. My mom was a highly anxious person who always thought worst case scenarios whenever I missed a phone call, whenever I showed up 10 minutes late, half an hour late, an hour late. So, you know, whenever I didn't respond to my mom's emails within 24 hours, she'll think something happened to me. So as I'm taking care of grandma, I'm witnessing all of these patterns. And I'm also trying to reckon with the fact that like these patterns might exist within me too. So in a lot of ways, taking care of grandma is very illuminating for myself. I'm starting to see that this is my future, as unideal as it may be. And I think when mom saw that this was her future, she got really distraught. And right now I'm not trying to feel any sort of way about this. I'm just trying to understand what it would mean for me to become my grandmother and what I can do now to try to train myself to not go in that direction while I'm still relatively young and flexible and malleable. I think once you age and have your thoughts set in place, it becomes much harder to control these genetic leanings. These epigenetic leanings. So it's normal mom behavior until it isn't. Like my mom would roam the streets at night looking for me if I didn't show up on time. Like, what is that going to accomplish exactly? I do think that my mom suffered a lot of mental issues that were undiagnosed. So knowing that my grandma has had a history of mental issues, probably due to the stress and war and obvious trials and tribulations that came with living in that time period and that geographical area, like, I just know that something's off, and I know that I very well might carry the genes of something being off, and that, you know, if I do, then there's nothing more I can do about it other than trying to be aware of it and trying to work with myself so that I don't go down the same road that my mom went down, that I don't repeat history as I'm seeing it play out in front of me. And to a certain degree, I don't think there's much I can do, but maybe there's a little bit that I can do. My battery is at 59%. How bad am I glitching? I think this phone might just be dying, honestly. So I'm curious if you're willing to share, Sir Sock Buddy. You don't have to, but if you are willing to share, what a narcissist who is also a psychopath looks like. I am starting to wonder, after all the research I've done on narcissistic personality disorder, whether or not Grandma might have some degree of it. 2% potato is pretty good. I mean, I can't diagnose anyone. I'm just watching silly YouTube videos. But some traits check out. And I know we all have narcissistic traits, but the way that Grandma kind of, she is unable to accept other people's realities. She keeps pushing her own, and this not only happened when she got old, this happened, Uncle says, as early as 20 years ago. So 20 years ago was when my granddad died, and Uncle was telling me that once Grandpa died, Grandma's personality traits got worse. So BPD and NPD are not the same, but they are both cluster B personality disorders. They do have a lot of overlap, but there are significant differences between the two. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a learned behavior for her to get the attention that she wants, and I'm trying to think up of ways to communicate to her, not verbally, because verbal is not going to get through to her, that this is unacceptable and that I will not be responding to this type of behavior. I think maybe the best course of action is just literally for me to not respond verbally to her. Just carry about as if she didn't tell me anything, to not acknowledge her reality, Because once I react in any way, whether it be positive or negative in terms of screaming at her and telling her to stop it, she's getting attention. So it is creating feedback for her no matter how I react, if I react. The only way to not create that feedback loop for her is for me to not react as much. I don't know if grandma was complimented on as a child. That's another thing about narcissistic personality disorders, is that they are basically arrested development, right? They experience some sort of childhood roadblock in terms of either getting affection, not getting enough affection, or getting too much affection and being basically babied into getting everything they want all the time. So like extremes, right? You either get nothing in terms of care and love and attention, or you got everything. And they basically just stay there in that age, and they develop all these behavior patterns and thought patterns and mental frameworks that help them keep getting what they need in terms of what they've already gotten or what they never got to begin with. So it does turn them into very, from the outside looking in, manipulative people. Again, not because of, I don't want to like blame anyone for having this condition. It's truly just a sad thing all around. And I totally would understand if grandma had NPD, like why? It's pretty obvious why. She was probably never really complimented on as a child because like her childhood was just all strife. It was turbulence all the time. It was famine, it was poverty, it was starvation, it was war, it was violence, it was just constant insecurity, one after another. So would it be surprising at all for grandma to have developed NPD? I don't think so. I think it's pretty, I mean, it would check out. I wouldn't blame her. I'm gonna read some comments. I missed out a lot. Do you think her traits got worse or that they were less noticeable while your grandpa was alive? I don't know. I didn't live with them in China, so I never I never got to witness that transformation happen in person. My uncle was there, basically. My mom and I were both in America at the time, so. Yeah, let's talk about you, Deborah. Anytime. She had no emotional connection, constantly saying things to others that were cutting, that disregarded their feelings. She would reinforce rules for the household, curfews, everything was about her. Right. Yeah, I mean, losing someone that you love and have had deep companionship and history and mutual growth with is extremely difficult. It's like losing a part of yourself. It's like losing a part of your life as you know it. It is kind of like a deconstruction of the self. So I totally understand it. So it's important for us to notice these patterns and to kind of draw some potential cause and effect, even though we might not ever be certain of whether or not it's just correlation or actually cause and effect. But once we are aware of these changes and how they have affected us, we can try to do some harm reduction, you know? So, and yeah, grandma has lost a lot. You're absolutely right. She is old and scared. I am basically all she has left in the immediate grasp. But just because I am all that she has in her immediate grasp does not mean that I can be there for her all the time. That is why she is in a long-term care facility with nurses around the clock, because that's their job, and they do a really great job at this place of doing just that. And I need to like be able to entrust her in their care and also to disengage myself so that I don't go fucking crazy. Yeah. I I do feel like insanely crazy sometimes when grandma gets up to her antics. And I really don't want her to affect me that way. It makes me very upset that I allow myself to be affected that way, so I'm trying to work on it. I mean, in my immediate reaction is anger at grandma, but it's really anger at myself because I feel like I should have more of a grasp on maintaining my inner peace despite what grandma throws at me, because I have to cognitively realize that grandma is not doing this out of malice. She's doing this out of insecurity. She's doing this out of fear. She is attention seeking because she feels lonely. I get it. So why can't I actually act in a way that aligns with my mental cognition of understanding where she's coming from? Why is it so hard for me to like disengage myself from her acting out? And how can I nurture the part of myself where I can disengage a little bit more so that it's healthier for her and for me going forward? This is all part of my learning journey, I think. Slowly but surely I'll get the hang of it. Goal is to outlive grandma. Goal is to do what mom didn't get to do and to outlive grandma. Find her a boyfriend? I can't even find me a boyfriend. Jesus fucking Christ. Make grandma some edibles. Is that ethical? I also don't know how she's, honestly, frankly, I would not mind doing that. I just really don't know how she's gonna react to weed. I don't know how her body's gonna process it, because weed actually makes anxiety worse for some people. It even makes anxiety worse for myself. So I don't wanna be responsible for making things worse for grandma. I know you're just probably joking, but I've thought about it. I also think that nurses get used to it with time. Like they accept their reality and they develop a sort of necessary and maybe healthy detachment to everything that goes around them to make it through the workday, you know? I also think that certain personality types are more suited to be a nurse, and I don't think I'm there yet. I think naturally speaking, I'm not a very good nurse type. I was never a patient person. I have my dad's genes. He's a very reactive person, very like emotionally turbulent, at least in his younger years. And I just don't think I'm genetically gifted to be that sort of caretaker. So I only have to work with what I can have at my grasp, which is this work in progress. Honestly, I don't really remember past questions on lives, so no worries. I've developed a skill for letting go of things faster now, given how crazy the internet is and how much of a detrimental effect it can have on my mental health. So, you do you, and I do me. Hello, Salt Lake City. My hair is looking healthy AF. Thank you. It's really healthy now because we have officially chopped off all of the bleached bits. I don't think I'm ever gonna want to bleach my hair ever again. It was awful. Lesson number 1 is if you have jet black hair, dyeing your hair might not be a good decision. So yeah, she lost her daughter, she might lose me, and I'm trying to be like, yo, grandma, if you call me nonstop to pick up a fucking watermelon, you might just kill me too. I'm trying to tell her that phone calls are not good for me. I'm trying to tell her that phone calls should be reserved for emergency purposes only. But grandma does not seem to understand it. Every time I have a fight with her about this, she'll say shit like, well, if you don't want to come visit me, you don't have to. But we both know that that's not true. We both know that she's gonna freak out if I don't visit her. So unfortunately, I just have to learn how to navigate grandma's manipulative way of communication and make it work for myself as best as I can. There's only a certain amount of sense I can talk into her that will facilitate mutual communication, and it's honestly just not worth my energy sometimes. I have to think intelligently about how to use my resources, my mental resources with her. It's hard. It's hard, but you know, I'm doing it. That's all I can say. And I've also told mom's friend to not bring her food anymore because every time they bring her food, it causes me stress. Without fail. Last time, they tried to be really considerate and they brought her buns. They brought her pork buns because grandma loves pork buns. And they brought her something like 6 buns, which isn't even that many. But because grandma lives with a scarcity mindset, she didn't eat all of them. She was like, I'm not hungry enough to eat all of them. And she kept calling me to like, come take home the dumplings, come take home the buns. And finally, because she was like screaming at me over the phone that it was gonna spoil, and I was just like, you know what, I'm actually home today, let me just go fucking do this. I went literally 3 pork buns. Like the amount of peace that has been interrupted in my life over 3 pork buns, I'm just like, please don't bring her any more food. Like this is really not worth my stress. I'm a person who likes predictability, and for grandma to call me out of the blue to command me to come pick up food for her is just so annoying. And I can't make a habit out of this for her. Like I can't acquiesce to her requests. It's just gonna get worse. Every time I comply, she'll know that it worked, and it'll condition her to do more of the same in the future, and I don't want that to happen. If I tell her that she told me not to visit, she's going to come back with another manipulative response. Like that's just how grandma's brain works. It is impossible to win, so the best thing to do is to not play her game. Oh, grandma doesn't have her own phone. It's the nurses making the call for her. Grandma has my phone number. She'll bother the nurses until they call my number for her. And she'll either keep screaming until they give her attention, or she'll actually run out into the lobby of her floor to get the nurse's attention. Like grandma has so much energy within her to make these ridiculous requests. It is clear to me that she is not weak or near death. So based on that factor alone, I'm not worried about her survival. That she still has energy to complain about things I'm not doing adequately enough, or to complain about staff mistreating her, or to complain about food, or to complain about whatever else. The fact that she has energy to complain is evidence enough that she's doing great. As great as a 95-year-old can be, anyway. Oh yeah, like actual screaming. Like when I went to see her the day after the watermelon calls, I could hear her as soon as I stepped out of the elevator, just her screaming from her room. Like, come save me, like, my life. What life, Grandma? What's wrong with your life? I didn't pick up the watermelon, that's what's wrong with her life. There's only so much I can order the nurses to do. And then if Grandma sees the nurses take the watermelon away, she's going to assume that they stole it. That's gonna reinforce her theory that the nurses are constantly stealing and messing with her shit. So it's not a wise move. Literally, I cannot win with Grandma. That's the point of this rant. No matter what I do, Grandma's gonna come up with some sort of alternative tale of, people are stealing from me, they're taking everything from me, they threw away my food, they're giving me bad food, they're giving me leftovers, they're not giving me my meds, they're not giving me medical attention, you didn't come, I thought you died. I started making her do things for herself, like she has this dingy old hand towel that she likes to use to wash herself with and to dry her hands on. She left it in the bathroom guardrail, and this morning as I was getting ready to leave, she screamed, she literally screamed my name to get me back into the room, and I was like, what, Grandma? And she was like, I left my towel in the bathroom, can you take it from me? If you don't take it from me, they're gonna come and like wipe whatever dirty shit on it. And I'm just like, okay, you left it in the bathroom, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wheel you in your wheelchair to the bathroom, and you're going to come take it and retrieve it and put it where you want it. I was just like, I'm not doing this for you because you did this to yourself, so you're fully capable of doing this to yourself. You can undo whatever you did. So yeah, I am basically treating her like I would treat a kid, and I'm, through this method, drawing boundaries of what I'm willing to do for her. So, I know it's like not the most pleasant rant to hear about, but I also just don't see a lot of sharing of the burden of caretaking. And a lot of my friends who are now my age, in our 30s, are coming up against grandparents aging and dying, parents aging and having illnesses and potentially dying. And I just feel like, one, I would like to rant about it so I get it out of my system faster, so thank you for listening. But also two, like, let's talk about it a little bit more. Let's commiserate about it a little bit more, because I know a lot of us are going through this right now. And it's like really sad. It's really sad to see the people who took care of you growing up get this old and dysfunctional. And I think at the foundation of it, we don't want to talk about it because it constantly reminds us of our future as people who turn into toddlers, who do get emotionally abusive because that's what they need to do to get their insecurities met. And I think the more we can openly talk about it without shame, the healthier it'll be for us in the long run when we do come across either having to take on caretaking roles or having to subject others to caretake us. And I'm truly very thankful that I have my uncle as a support network who's like confirming all of these experiences by saying that grandma has acted this way even before she was this old, so that I know I'm not being a mean ass bitch to my grandma, because that's truly how I feel sometimes. I'm like, I can't deal with this shit. And he's like, yeah, like sometimes it gets really fucking hard, to the point where he wanted to like smash his own head against the wall because he was so frustrated and he couldn't really punish his own mother, so he just took it out on himself. That's the exact kind of behavior that I want to prevent from happening again. That's why I don't want grandma to go back to China, because I know that if my uncle did that before, he's gonna do it again because she's gotten even worse in her state in the last few years. So I'm being very utilitarianism about this right now. At the end of the day, aging and dying is not pleasant for anyone because of how our society has prioritized things and taught us to think about things. So I think this is just currently the best option for everyone involved. Grandma's able to stay there because she has Medicaid and Medicare, which is great because mom never got to cash out on her Social Security. So she worked for basically 2.5 decades and didn't get to reap any of the benefits of Social Security that she was paying into. So I'm glad that grandma's getting to enjoy some public benefits. Oh yeah, that's right, trimming nails. Delightful task. Her nails are so brittle these days, they like crack before the trimmer even clamps down. It's very interesting to observe a human body in such noticeable difference and decline. That is for sure. It's truly giving me a very different perspective on life, you know, like I don't reserve any fantasies about aging and end of life anymore because I'm here to see it go down. So I am grateful for that experience, I think. It's very illuminating. And it kind of puts everything into perspective for me. I think a lot of people my age are having kids. They're seeing the beginning stages of life, but I'm here seeing the end stages of life. And I think having kids can make you fantasize about what life is about, but I think caretaking old people really shows you what life is about. Soaking in warm water. Interesting. Thank you. The facility used to have people who trim her nails, but I don't know, maybe like nobody wants to deal with her anymore. The last 2 times I was the one who trimmed her fingernails. I think also grandma just like complains a lot, and I find it easier to just deal with it on my own as soon as she complains about it so she can shut up, honestly, because I feel so bad for the nurses that I just don't want to trouble them. If I can do it myself, then I'll do it myself. I was taking her out on a walk outside anyway, and I thought it was a great time for me to just trim her nails outside while she was sitting in the sun, have her relaxed. I personally believe that nobody should have a kid until they spend at least 1 year taking care of an old person. I think people need to understand what they're starting. People love to start things without caring for the consequences. Taking care of kids require patience too, but they're very different patiences. They're very different requirements of patience. And kids are just so cute. They're so fresh. They're so young. They're so filled with potential. And old people are just, in our perspective, in decline. There is no further hope for people who are this age. You just know they're gonna die. And so who wants to watch a sinking ship? I get it, it's not pleasant, but it's also very much a part of reality, just like birth is. Death is equally valid. So to the folks in the audience who have had kids, did having kids really change your life? Because that's what I've been told my whole life. Having kids changed my life. Having kids gave my life meaning. I'm very curious what your experience as moms are. And what would you say to people who are so certain they want kids, who haven't had kids yet? Is there anything you would like to say to people who just want kids like it's their life's mission? Create stability in your life first, yes. that your social life ends basically. No more lay-ins, and you have to set a good example as your kids copy you. Be sure. Wait. Did you understand life differently after having kids? Did you have any eureka moments after having kids? And if you never yearned for kids but had them finally, what prompted you to have them? Again, only answer if you're comfortable, of course. No pressure. But thank you for providing some insight. No eureka moments you just fumble through. Sounds like the rest of life. That comforts me to a great degree. I don't know if you realize how much that comforts me to read. Having a child taught me so much about love. What about love? If you think too much about it, you will talk yourself out of it. Yeah, I think too much about everything, hence no kids. Well, Fred's no longer my kid. I think that much has become clear. Damn, your anxiety got worse after having your daughter? Shit. Your anxiety got worse because you're worried for her now? Okay, hopefully this can last us a week. We'll see. It's time to feed myself. Do you feel like your kids are an extension of you? Look at all these different answers. Huh. I'm not saying to what degree do you think your kids are copies of you? I'm more asking of when you feel like you're worrying about them, you're having anxiety about their place in life and the world, do you worry about them as if they were a part of you? That kind of extension. Does that make sense? I don't know if what I said made sense. I think my mom always viewed me as an extension of herself. In both ways, honestly. Okay, let's see what my battery life is at. 38%. I'm gonna go pee. And then I'm gonna come back and we're gonna snack and then I'm gonna eat my meds and then I'm gonna sign off for the night. Maybe I'll treat myself today and go watch another movie. Maybe I'll work on my video edit. Maybe not. I haven't decided yet, but pee time. I'll be back. Okay, our dinner tonight will be leftovers. Glamorous, I know. First serving is some leftover pasta. I'm gonna melt some mozz on top. I'm going to show you what this 10% Greek yogurt tastes like. It is literally not at all that dissimilar to sour cream, honestly. Very similar to sour cream. I'm gonna drink the whey. I might mix this in with my pasta after I warm it up. Very attractive, I know, but we shall eat it. drinking the whey because I really like my yogurt to be very thick. And so any amount of liquid that seeps out of it, I like to keep out of it. It's basically like making a more Greek yogurt. So if the work is already done for me, I'm just gonna drink the whey and keep it out of the container. Any movies I want to see? Yes, I want to see Titan. Is that how you pronounce it? It's fairly recent. Has anyone seen it? Bye, thanks for joining. I have some movies saved and bookmarked, but that one's first on my watch list. I've had several people tell me that it was a very good movie, so I just want to see how good it is. Nothing like melted cheese. Cheese makes everything better, yes or no? Yes or no? This is why I cannot ever go vegan. I mean, I do consider tofu to be like the Asian mozzarella. I've always thought that mozzarella is relatively tasteless, but so's tofu. You just gotta use it right. You just gotta know where to put it. But let's use a little bit of this sour cream yogurt. Check out how thick that is. It's so thick. There we go. I guess this is almost like a little non-alcoholic vodka sauce. It's like almost a pink sauce. What am I doing to that yogurt? Making it a delicious pasta condiment. Duh. Mmm. Mmm. I am a fan. Next time, try a scoop of extra creamy Greek yogurt or sour cream on your red sauce pasta. And tell me what you think. I'm down. I'm down for this. This is great. I might eat all of my leftover pasta this way. Maybe even some of my fresh pasta this way. Sour cream and pasta. Greek yogurt and pasta. What's going to be the highlight of your week? Who wants to go first? True. I'm eating tomato, don't tell my doctor. But also, if I have to live a life without tomato sauce, or ketchup, or vinegar, I don't know, man. I just don't know, man. I don't know if I'm capable of that life. After knowing the miracles of tomato. Weed delivery. Okay, so I'm finally almost done with my weed that I bought back in October. I think I have one more smoke sesh left. And then we're gonna move on to the weed that I bought in like February, which is also getting very crunchy. I'm gonna challenge you all to put some yogurt or sour cream in your pasta, but it has to be full fat. Do not go non-fat or low fat on me, please. It's gonna ruin your pasta, I feel like, if it doesn't have enough fat content. Crunchy wheat is best for edible making. I've had a very bad experience on edibles. I'm not sure if I should experiment with that. Holly, I don't know if low-fat dairy actually helps you lose weight. In fact, it might do the opposite. I don't know how the science checks out on it. There's a lot of flippy floppies. Okay, let's start taking some pills. How fun. One. It's a pretty pill. Look at that. Two, very dusty. Three, also very pretty. Such a big bottle. Four. 4. My doctor prescribed chewable Pepto-Bismol, and he tells me I have to eat 2 tablets 4 times a day, meaning every day I have to eat 8 tablets. It's very expensive. Because my tummy's broken. I don't know what's wrong with the liquid one. He prescribed the tablets. These are for my broken tummy. I have erosion, aka baby ulcers, coming in. The Pepto-Bismol tablets are peppermint flavored. And honestly, the liquid Pepto was cheaper, but I don't know. The pharmacist was like, your doctor prescribed chewables. And I'm like, do you know why? And she was like, you're gonna have to call him. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just buy this shit. Erosion on my esophagus and in my stomach. So does anybody know how the all hot girls have stomach issues meme came into existence? Like, who started that trend? Hot take, but I might like the Greek yogurt more than I like the moss on the pasta. I don't know if it's making fun of disordered eating. It's stomach issues. Like, if you have IBS, that's not necessarily because you have a eating disorder. Oh, I didn't make that connection at all regarding weight loss. I think honestly, after COVID, I've gained weight and my stomach issues have gotten worse. Looking back at it now, I feel like COVID really did a number on my body because I think just across the board, it wiped out certain defense mechanisms and my body just got really out of whack. And so all of the health issues that I was experiencing before just got worse after COVID. I didn't know you could treat IBS. That's a thing? Fascinating. Oh, I see. Treat, not cure. Got it, got it, got it. Interesting. Paleo diet. Does paleo diet include oats? Asking for a friend. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna be honest with myself and just say that I don't have the patience to do elimination diets. No legumes, no dairy, no grains? Yeah, I don't know. I might just take an L on that. I don't think I can go without all of those things. Those are like, girl, grains, legumes, and dairy makes up like 90% of my diet. The rest of it is fruits. So sounds like it's gonna be tummy issues to the grave for me. Going FODMAP wasn't the hardest episode. I think going low carb was the hardest episode for me to make. I felt so dang tired and grouchy that entire week. I was pissed off. Mm-hmm. I'm just casually doing a tree pose while standing here. I thought you should know. You have Crohn's? Shit. It makes sense that my immune system was never strong to begin with, and I have a lot of digestive issues. Knowing what you just said about 70% of your immune system being in your gut, checks out. It is less casual when I point it out. How about this though? Very satisfying dinner. I will probably bid you all goodbye soon. Final questions? I've never cheated on the special diet videos, and if I did, I showed you what I cheated with. Usually I just did my best to eat leftovers, but I think during the low carb week, I cheated with apples because my body was just like, please, something. That's not a compliment, by the way. Thank you, Rachel. Sativa. I'm a sativa girl, but I'm down for the hybrids. I'm also gonna wipe up some of the sauce in my bowl with some leftover chicken, and then I'll say goodbye. How's that? What am I gonna do for myself this week? That is a great question. What am I gonna do for myself this week? I'm going to try to do my damnedest to not flip out at grandma for whatever reason. I'm going to try. And thank you for asking that question because I did not formulate that thought up until now, but now it's gonna be a thing. Now it will be a thing. My chicken, it's just roasted chicken. I smoked the hell out of my oven baking this chicken, so I do not recommend. It set off my smoke alarm. I cleaned it for half an hour, scrubbing it with a metal scrubby. Not pleasant. I don't answer questions about Aaron's life. His life is his to share, not mine. I don't purge in terms of like throwing up. I haven't thrown up since the 4th grade, but I used to have bulimic tendencies where I would purge by like starving myself after a binge or exercising a lot. I try not to do that anymore. I don't starve myself anymore, although I sometimes still do have guilt trips around not going to the gym on some days, but I'm working on that mindset. I'm working towards an existence where I don't punish myself for every little thing, or any big thing either, because punishment doesn't work for me in terms of living in peace, and my goal right now is to prioritize peace for myself. So anything that brings me peace, I will work towards. I think disordered eating and eating disorders are very complicated issues, and everyone manifests them differently for different reasons, and I'm more so just interested in how not to make myself miserable anymore, honestly. So whatever that may mean for me, I will try to do. Hello, Malaysia. The watermelon I'm gonna cut up for Grandma, but I bought her some strawberries, which are perishable. So I'm gonna go through the strawberries first, and then I'll cut those up for Grandma. Do you like any protein powders? I do. The Orgain. I like the Orgain. But I think it's very personal. I've had friends who tell me they hate it, so I don't know. You know what we need? I'll give you imaginary gold stars if you tell me the 2 condiments I'm about to put on top of my chicken thighs right now. Any guesses? Oh, we got it. Ketchup and mayo. You know it. No, my eating disorder did not start in the 4th grade. I think my eating disorders started in high school. But I'll talk about it in an upcoming video. Stay tuned if you want to know about my eating disorder history. That was a lot of ketchup. Here's to all the trash dinner eaters out there. It is Japanese mayo. The only mayo I accept in my life. It is Heinz. Did your dad invent ketchup? Does ketchup and mayo make French dressing? I haven't heard that before. But I also don't know what French dressing is, honestly. Okay, peeps. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I hope you enjoyed my rant. And thank you for commiserating in the solidarity. And for sharing your stories. It's been a blast. Happy week ahead. Take care of yourselves. Don't get ulcers.